Hey, good morning, Finger Lakes. Jim Seneca sitting in for the dog H. Weber here on Monday, December 9th. Oh, just about 16 days till Christmas. And big weekend in sports. Syracuse football team got a bowl bid. The Bills and Giants both lost. And Syracuse basketball team beat Binghamton. But today we're going to talk about an alternative sport. And I'm going to introduce you to someone you've probably already seen many times before and don't even know it. His name's Doug Willard. He is a windsurfer. And I know when you're driving along 5 and 20 in the north end of Seneca Lake in Geneva, you look over and you say, look at those guys. Or maybe you've gone to the photo page on Finger Lakes 1 and seen these guys and wondered, what are they doing? How do they do it? Well, this morning we're going to kind of talk about it. And so I'd like to welcome into the studio Doug Willard.
Yeah, good morning, Jim.
RochesterWindsports.com.
You got it, RochesterWindsports.com. Nice to be here.
And Doug lives in Perrington. And right off the bat, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in windsurfing and then how you came about organizing it.
Sure. I started 27 years ago thanks to my grandmother. The sport was exploding, windsurfing that is. In the late 70s and the 80s, and my grandmother bought one for my 13 cousins and thought it would be a blast for everybody to try out and do. And it stuck for a couple of us at our summer cottage on Georgian Bay in Canada, and it really stuck for me. And I started doing it around here in the region one day, doing what you did, driving along 5 and 20, and
right. There
were all the local guys out doing it. I'd never done it around where I lived. And so I came back here and brought all my gear from the cottage and dove right into it. And I've been doing it pretty solitarily for 15 years. It's been 27. I don't know if I mentioned that. Mm-hmm. And just kind of, I had such a fun time every time the wind blew, and I got together with all these other people, these doctors and mechanics and contractors and pharmacists and it was a blast.
And you didn't know these folks outside of windsurfing?
I did not. They share the same excitement that I did for getting out on the water, getting outside, and playing. It's an absolute thrill. There's certainly adrenaline involved. I wouldn't call all of us adrenaline junkies, right. But it's a fantastic. They're fantastic sports, windsurfing and kiteboarding. So. There really wasn't anything going on to connect the community when it wasn't windy. It's wind dependent.
Sure.
So I decided to jump into something I'd never done before and do something on the internet, and started RochesterWindsports.com, and it's kind of gone from there. We have a discussion forum, photos, trying to help restart windsurfing in the area, and kiteboarding is really exploding in popularity. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the snowboarding to windsurfing, skiing. So that's where it's all kind of come from and started from.
So basically, you might wake up in the morning and some of your compadres might have contacted you and said, "Hey, it's the winds from the south. Let's head to Geneva," and you just kind of jump up and go.
You got it. You got it exactly. Funny, this morning, 38 degrees out. Yeah. Drive a little slower. Wasn't my phone beeping? There's a couple of the guys are heading out to the state park on Seneca Lake there, and it's windy,
right.
And they're there. So we're wind addicted, and as long as you've got the right gear, and
it's got to still be cold though, right?
It's cold. Yeah, oh yeah, it's cold. It's definitely cold. You try to stay on top of the water as much as you can.
Yeah.
But it's cold and windy, and there's nothing else that beats it. When eventually the snow falls, there'll be gentlemen and some women out snow kiting too. That's another big thing with skis or snowboards.
I've seen that. Yeah, when the lake freezes over, they're out there.
You bet. Huh. You bet. So they do that too. But yeah.
So Seneca Lake seems to be the hot spot for windsurfing. Is it just because of how deep it is, or what makes that favorable as opposed to like Hugo Lake?
This is a good question. Well, they do. You can windsurf and anywhere. Kiteboarding, you need a little bit more of an open area, but when you get a little bit more advanced, you do kind of go where the wind direction will give you the body of water where the wind direction will give you the best conditions. And be that Canandaigua, you can go, any of those, when the wind's from the south, any of these Finger Lakes are great. And even from the north, heading down to the south ends and catching it on the flip side, which doesn't happen as much. But the water on Seneca Lake, when you progress to a higher level of windsurfing and kiteboarding, the way the waves build up and the swells build up, the wind strength is great. It's clear wind, and you can ride the texture of you're surfing. Mm-hmm. That's where instead of just going in straight lines, you can surf down waves and the jumps, and it just really sets up fantastically on Seneca Lake for quite often to really have some high performance windsurfing and kiteboarding. Very, very similar to the kind of the mecca for windsurfing and kiteboarding a bit is out in the Hood River Gorge, or the Columbia River Gorge in Hood River, Oregon. Mm-hmm. And there they've got kind of a wind tunnel that sets up from the coast, but it's windy every single day there, and the big swells, and this just mirrors that. It's kind of a hidden gem, I think, around here.
So how many of these folks that contact you and get involved are beginners, or all of them some level of experience? Anybody ever called you and said, Doug, I want to get into this, but I've never done it before?
Yeah. How would I get started?
Yeah.
I do. I get contacted more and more. And Rochester Wind Sports doesn't sell anything, or it's more of a contact and an ambassador for these sports. And people do contact and say, how do I get into kiteboarding or kite surfing, and how do I get into windsurfing? Or I took a lesson. I used to do this 20 years ago. How can I get back into it? And I think because of the website and because of websites like Finger Lakes One, people have seen the photos of people doing it, or they've talked to people at the beach, because we love to talk about what we do.
Sure.
It's exciting, and we love to spread that excitement. But more and more people have been contacting me. I was recently at the north end of Canandaigua, Kershaw Park, and a gentleman that was, I guess, in his 30s or so, early 30s, was out giving it a shot on pretty basic beginner gear, which it's a lot easier to learn now than it ever was, but having a great time in some light wind. I mean, there's more than just high speed, high wind windsurfing, and but a lot of people, we've had 2 to 3 new kiteboarders coming on in the Finger Lakes area every year. It's exploding in popularity. There's safety considerations that go with kiteboarding and windsurfing, so you got to make sure you get good instruction. There's actually instruction for windsurfing and kiteboarding in the area that helps.
So what's the entry to participate in terms of cost?
It's you're gonna expect to pay, let's talk about $1,000 as a ballpark figure.
Okay.
For entry. You're gonna, for kiteboarding, you're gonna want a trainer kite. You won't need anything to ride on. Mm-hmm. With kiteboarding, you're going to want to get lessons as well. It's flying a kite, but it's a pretty powerful kite. We talk about the kites and the windsurfing sails in square meter of exposed surface to the wind. I guess that's a ballpark figure. There's used gear out there, and if you know what you're looking for, you can come upon that much less expensively for windsurfing and for kiteboarding. For the windsurfing, we're lucky to have a resource like Canandaigua Sailboarding that still offers lessons and beginner entry-level gear.
Is that a physical store? Or?
That is a physical store.
Okay.
Yep.
Downtown Canandaigua?
Yeah, right on right adjacent to the park. Canandaigua Sailboarding is, and they're on the web, but they offer stand-up paddleboarding as well. And another thing you can do is related to stand-up paddleboarding and windsurfing is they sell crossover boards. It's a stand-up paddleboard, and you can attach a sail to it. And maybe you're getting into it for the stand-up paddleboard, but I enjoy the sail thing.
Right.
So,
well, I bet you it's probably just as much work. It's probably physically demanding to be out there keeping your balance and navigating the waves. And how exhausted do you get?
It is. It can when you advance, the demanding conditions do get exhausting, but you learn to balance. It's really a balancing act, both sports. Resisting against the the sail and the sail resisting against the board, and then the water. And we've got, harnesses you wear that you can hook onto a rope attached to the boom, and use your body weight. And you kind of become one with the water and the air, sensing when the wind's going to let up a little bit, and taking more of that load on your arms so that you can keep your balance. But beginning is difficult. Beginning anything is difficult,
Sure.
I think. You spend a bunch of time in the water, but getting it right once, for me, 27 years ago, was enough to, I want more of that.
Right. It's kind of like, it's I guess it's no different than a lot of different hobbies that you have. Somebody wants to golf and get into golf, it's probably about $1,000 barrier to entry, in terms of buying equipment. But I guess, with that, then you need to pay greens fees every time. But you guys can just find some open water and meet up and head out.
We're lucky in that regard.
Yeah.
We really are. And sometimes there's weather forecasting services out there specifically for these sports, and it's the weather. Sometimes they get it right, and sometimes you should be out in a boat fishing, or paddling on a stand-up paddleboard, which is again another great accompaniment to windsurfing and kiteboarding.
Now, is paddleboarding a good way to start? Is paddleboarding easier than windsurfing?
Certainly. Oh, most definitely. It's a great way to get kind of a board sense underneath your feet, and it's good exercise. It can be any kind of exercise you want it to be. They do yoga on stand-up paddle boards. People surf. People head out on Lake Ontario and surf.
Right.
On surfing and stand-up paddleboarding. And
now, have you ever done any surfing? Any traditional Brady Bunch tiki, Greg Brady surfing? You know what I mean?
That was a great episode, by the way.
Sure it was.
Remember the tiki necklace from my youth? But I haven't. But there's plenty of guys that have, and I think stand-up paddleboarding is opening that up because it can be it has the ability to be multi-purpose. You can paddle on it in flat water. You can take it out on some waves on the lake, and of course that's wind-driven waves. But so it's different surfing, but surfing nonetheless, riding a wave. I didn't have that much of a background in that.
Well, that's a harder thing to accomplish around here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not going to be much fun. So you say they can do it on Lake Ontario?
They do it on Lake Ontario. Yeah.
Now, is Lake Ontario a more difficult place to windsurf than Seneca Lake, or more exciting, or just because of the bigger waves? Or
the good questions to ask. They do get bigger. It can be more difficult and more challenging, but then also it depends on where you're doing it on Lake Ontario, because there's guys around here and women that will travel 2 hours for the right condition.
Sure.
They could get a south wind. I could get a south wind somewhere in Canandaigua, but for me, the level and some of the folks I do it with, the level we're at, it's more desirable to drive a little bit further from my home, closer to Rochester, and get to Seneca Lake. Or
Right.
you can windsurf a southwest wind on Long Pond that's maybe 10 feet deep at its deepest, or you can go to Hamburg Park on Lake Erie and, forgive me, ride giants. I mean, there are really big waves breaking out there, and it's a thrill. It takes practice, but we do get around. So the water makes it a little bit more difficult, but a lot of times when you're beginning, you won't be out when the water is that difficult. You're going to be in lighter wind.
take it a little slow.
Yeah, take it a little slow. It's a different scene, but it's a lot of fun. It's my son. I've got a son that's going to be 8 soon, and we're thinking about giving him a shot to see if he'd like to try it. And it's not a sport. They're not sports for everyone, but
Yeah.
he seems to express an interest. So we'll see where it goes.
Now, when you're out and on the water, do passerbys try to engage you and ask you questions, or do they want to learn more, or are they intrigued?
Sure they are. A lot of times we're going pretty quickly, and occasionally we'll run into people that don't understand necessarily where to be in relation to what we're doing on the water. But people send out a hoot or a holler, or folks on sail, other sail-powered craft, and we're fairly kindred spirits, getting out in the water. So there'll be a wave and, kind of a mutual respect kind of thing. Often when we're at Seneca Lake, there'll be people walking on the footpaths there, and they'll stop and talk. And like I said, we love to talk about the sport that we love and that we do. And you've got to be careful. You give, when people are going in and out of the water, that you give them a reasonable berth, because kind of landing a kite or it takes some time and some skill, and it can be a dangerous. Those lines flying through the air can be a dangerous thing. So if you see that happening, give them a berth. But boy, we love to talk to people about it.
And you guys do get airborne. I mean, especially the kite boarders get a little more air because they're getting a little more propulsion, or are pulling up because of the mechanisms above them, I guess.
The kites, those guys, they can really do fantastic things. When they get in the air, everything that they've got a smaller board attached, and the lift, you're right, that's generated by that kite when they expose it to the wind the right way. It's really fantastic. Windsurfing, the same kind of thing. You're more grounded. You're holding onto the sail. You're holding onto the board. But again, it's absolutely a thrill to get to that level. And it took a while for me to get to that high a level, but it didn't take a long time for me to get to a spot where I loved zipping across the water. The first time I looked down, and I thought I was flying because there were bubbles coming from the side of my windsurfer. Yeah. And I was maybe traveling 7 or 8 miles an hour, or if that.
How fast do you go now, when you really get going?
You can average right around 20.
And so people watching from afar see you kind of gliding along out there, the small person in this huge body of water. But when you're actually out there, you are moving along really quickly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's you're really actively involved in what you're doing too. You can kind of hook in. I talked about that harness earlier, and hold on. But there's all sorts of fine tuning that you're doing when you're out there. It's quick. I mean, you're flying on top of the water, and it's quite a sense. It really is. It's quite a sense. It's not uncommon for any of us to pass each other and let out just a whoop, a holler, because you're feeling it. Yeah. It really is. And everybody should have something like that.
Sure.
It's good for you.
No doubt about it. Well, Doug Willard's our guest from Rochester Wind Sports here inside the FingerLakes1.com studios. I'm Jim Sinicrobe, sitting in for Harold Weber. And we're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsors. When we get back, I'm going to give you a little quick update on the Wonderful Run 5K in Seneca Falls, which Doug and his wife are participating in this year. I'm going to tell you why I think the Texas Bowl is a good bowl for Syracuse football, and we'll talk more with Doug about the sport of windsurfing. So hang tight. We'll be right back.
Seneca Lake National Bank. Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquors, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time. Tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams, Wadhams Enterprises, your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Steve Muller Motors, smullermotors.com. Quality, affordable vehicles, both foreign and domestic. Bob and Leslie Oman, owners of the Oman Theater in Lyons, as well as the Newark Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, Waterloo. Best Mott Sticks around, where you can enjoy a drink and some laughs. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. Awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Home of the toughest par 4 in central New York. That'd be number 16. Marshall Auto Sales. DickMarshallsAuto.com. Awesome used vehicles, where you not only can buy a great vehicle, you can gain a great friend in Dick Marshall. Wilson Press, wpress.com. Seneca Falls, Rich Ricky, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Rich Ricky, Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week.
And welcome back inside the FingerLakes1.com studios on a Monday morning, a wintry Monday morning. Winter weather advisories in effect this week, so keep an eye on the FingerLakes1.com Weather Center. And I know a couple people that are watching the weather are Jeff and Rook and Kevin Korzeniewski, organizers of the Wonderful Run 5K. That's coming up Saturday. It's nice to have a little snow for that. And Doug, you're running in this. It's your first time, or have you running the 5K before?
I actually won't be running in it myself. I'll be support staff. My wife is running in it this year. She's an avid runner and has made the trek down here. She's had an interest in coming down for a couple of years. It's been on her radar, but really committed this year. It's an exciting thing.
Yeah, I think much like the windsurfing, I think, you're going to kind of get you come and it's a unique feeling, and then you're going to want to do it again.
That's a big draw.
Yeah, and it's, I don't run in it, but we usually work it. And just being down there with all those people, they're expecting 4,000 this year. It's a bit of, it's the holiday cheer, I guess, kind of takes over. Everybody's in such a great mood, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there's a light snow, because that adds to it.
Sure.
So like about 29 degrees, low wind, light snow would be perfect. So that's what I'm hoping for these guys, because Jeff and Kevin and Tina and Jolene and everybody involved put in a ton of work.
Well, what a unique time of day for it too. I mean, often these are in the morning, but this is it's a special opportunity for runners to at this time of day to go to be in and for whatever reason a race, whether it's to win or for a PR or just to do it with friends. What a neat time of day, and there's everything good surrounding.
It's a neat time of year and a neat time of day. You don't think of outdoor 5Ks in December, but the time of day is a great part of it, because when you start, it's light out, and by the time you're not even halfway through, it's dark out. So it's kind of strange. And along the race course, all the Christmas lights on people's homes, and a lot of people line the course. So you can have a great time. And of course, it's also tied into the It's a Wonderful Life Festival in Seneca Falls. You can learn more about that and get the schedule at therealbedfordfalls.com. So 4,000 people descended on Seneca Falls this Saturday and throughout the weekend. The Syracuse Orangemen are going bowling. The Texas Bowl seems kind of arbitrary, but we'll take what we can get right now with Syracuse football. And the nice thing about it is we're playing Minnesota. They're a Big Ten school. I mean, there was talk of us going to play in a bowl where we would have played against a school like North Texas, and so I think having another BCS caliber opponent will be good for us. It's another month of practice, and all in all, a great year for Scott Schaefer in his first year as Syracuse head coach. And the Buffalo Bills lost yesterday embarrassingly. Now, you're a Bills fan.
Oh, yeah, I am. I enjoy the suffering.
Well, it's a good thing that Harold's not here this morning, because he likes to just hammer Bills fans.
I'm lucky that.
Yeah. And then the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I do. I enjoy the Vancouver Canucks hockey team as well. Big fan of William Smith women's soccer, too. They're national champs.
Now, there's a connection there. Your sister was a goaltender at William Smith.
Yeah, my sister played there in the late 90s, and the last time they competed for the national championship, she played with them, and that was in 97. And the girls got back there, and Alison Wilbur and the whole family, the William Smith women's soccer family, got back there and made it happen this year. They'd won previously in the late 80s, was their other national championship. So it's a great thing for them. There's a big family over there, atmosphere over there surrounding that team. A lot of success and tradition. So congrats! Way to go,
absolutely.
Herons.
Congratulations, William Smith Herons. And I don't know if we mentioned, but you are a phys ed teacher at Fairport. You've coached some girls lacrosse. You coached some girls soccer. Live in Perrington, born in Pittsburgh, or Pittsford, not Pittsburgh, Pittsford. It's a great area upstate New York. Is it someplace you've always wanted to stay, or?
Most definitely. I have a lot of family that's in Canada, so that keeps me around Toronto and Guelph, Ontario, and that keeps me close there. But as far as we've got water, we've got the variability of the seasons. All the colleges and universities we've got there's all the sports to watch and play there, and you and I were talking about how refreshing the college and now the high school sports can be, playing those games for the sport of it, for the enjoyment of it. That's why you start. I mean, when you're a kid and you start playing a game and you come back, you can't wait to get there the next day because it was so much fun. Not necessarily because you won or you're going to get a scholarship. And
right.
And I get to help kids and start them on the path to being active and playing games for enjoying through being a phys ed teacher.
So what grades are you teaching?
I've got a pretty small range. I teach K to 2 at Dudley Elementary School.
Oh, no kidding. Well,
yeah,
that's a
K to 2.
That's a fun group.
Yeah, they're banging the doors to get in. They can't wait. So I'm lucky, and they've got a high energy, and I just mostly have to direct that on a daily basis and guide
focused,
them. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, K through 2, huh? So, yeah, my daughter's actually in 2nd grade. She loves her gym teacher. She loves gym.
Yeah, it's. I'm in a great place, working with great people. I'm one of those people that can say I feel like I've got the best job in the world, and I've been blessed. I've been lucky to be able to do it where I do it with who that I do it for and with. But you know, I don't coach anymore. I did coach modified girls lacrosse and did some assisting with women's soccer. But now it's kind of time to watch my own family get into sports and playing. So as that comes along.
Well, we're coming up on about 9:57 here on a Monday morning. Somebody wants to get in touch with you and says, wants you to make contact and ask some questions maybe about windsurfing and how they can get started, what's the best way?
Visit RochesterWindsports.com, and it's a windsurfing and kiteboarding website. There's a discussion forum, there's email contact, there's site descriptions. I can help guide you to places where you can learn. Kiteboarding, FingerLakesKiters.com. You can search that as well, or link to it through Rochester Wind Sports. Local certified instruction in kiteboarding at Finger Lakes Kiters. And there's also a club down at Cornell. They have the Cornell Windsurfing Club that offers clinics as well. So you can get to all of that through RochesterWindsports.com.
So RochesterWindsports.com is where you want to start. And if you're out and about in Geneva, apparently look at the lake because there's going to be guys out there windsurfing.
If you
this
see
morning.
whitecaps,
that's crazy.
Look for they're out there.
That is crazy. All right. Syracuse basketball team won this week. They played Binghamton. No big deal there. We figured we win that one, right?
Yeah.
But a couple other quick notes. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, Newark is hosting Geneva, and Finger Lakes One Sports will be there. Dave Barnick and Kevin Korzaneski will have the call. And that's a battle of two teams expected to contend for the Finger Lakes East. So
that's exciting so early in the season.
Yeah, we're really excited for that one too. We've had the Minders-Clyde game was a big early one. So I mean, even though we're just shy of Christmas break here, there's a ton of great basketball. So really excited about Geneva at Newark tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Dave Barnick will have the call along with Kevin Korzaneski on Finger Lakes One Sports and FingerLakes1.tv. Well, Doug, thanks for making the drive in from Fairport
sure.
and Parrington and telling us more about this sport. I'm certainly have learned a lot after seeing photos on our website and seeing you guys out on the lake and just wondering, where do these guys come from? Who are these guys?
Check us out. Check us out. We're we don't bite. We're friendly, and you might just get hooked yourself. Come on out, Jim.
Yeah, maybe I will. I need it. Now, is it a fitness activity? Is it a little
sure,
bit fitness? Because
sure.
I'm putting a little extra pounds on lately. Now
We all
I'm 42 years old. So I can need to do something that's a little more active other than playing golf and driving in a cart.
Yeah. Yeah, walk it. No, come on out. It's wonderful, and thanks for the chance to come on the show and talk about what I love doing so much.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back too, and I'm sure we will. Thanks again, Doug Willard, RochesterWindsports.com. I'm Jim Sinacropi. Get out there, do some last minute Christmas shopping. If you live in Seneca Falls or the surrounding areas, come down on Saturday or throughout the weekend for the It's a Wonderful Life Festival activities and for the 5K race. You can line the course, and it's a great feeling for the holiday season. Look out later this week on FingerLakes1.com. We got a video from the boys at FLX Crossroads, the top 5 most Christmassy places in the Finger Lakes. So we're getting in the holiday season. 15 more shopping days in 16 days. Is that right? Yeah, about 16 days till Christmas. So yeah, get that shopping done, and it's a total whirlwind.
Oh, it's overwhelming.
Well, Harold Weber will be back next week. My thanks to Doug Willard for coming in, and I'm Jim Sinecroby. Have a great week, everybody.